I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. I want to send a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And we do have a special guest that I do want to bring in really quick. I want to show you guys what we're discussing tonight. It has been a crazy, I would say, past 24 hours in the news cycle. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Jake Tapper is shamed. What is happening with Jake Tapper and why are people coming after him? We'll get into that. We're also going to discuss, this is interesting. I realize I misspelled Vicky's name. I got to fix that. Vicky Dillard exposes Joy Reid. Oh, it's all coming out, folks. Everything is coming out. We're also going to discuss Trump Medicaid cuts and would that affect you? That also includes SNAP. We're also discussing Israel strikes Syria and they are raiding the West Bank. We'll get into that story. Of course, our special guest tonight is Lee Camp. And we also are going to discuss the crazy Trump AI Gaza plan video. So tonight's theme is Fool Me Once, and we'll get into that with the stories. First and foremost, let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. He's a comedian and a political commentator. His name is Lee Camp. I'm sure you know him. What's going on, Lee?
Hey, Sabby, how you doing? I'm just excited to be here on the episode where we get to talk about you destroying Russell Brand. That was how far he has fallen to be celebrating a video which celebrates genocide.
It's bad. It's really bad. You guys know I'll get into that Trump AI video later, but what Lee is referring to there is Russell Brand posted a tweet basically applauding the Trump AI video for Gaza. And so I responded to that tweet and I said, who's blackmailing you? And the next thing I know, I got a DM from Kit from Hardlands Media, and he said, oh, he deleted the tweet. And I was like, what?
Literally, his tweet said, this shows Trump's genius or something like that. And it's a video of Trump celebrating ethnic cleansing. Like,
yep.
Unbelievable the shift brand has made.
Big shift there. But you have some exciting news about a new show that you've started. So I want to go ahead and pass it to you to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to talk about that. So as most people know, or a lot of people know, I guess, I wrote and hosted a TV show, comedy TV show called Redacted Tonight for 8 years. It was shut down by the U.S. government by sanctions, basically 3 years ago now. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And I have just brought it back, except now it's completely independent. I'm making it myself. It's called Unredacted Tonight, slightly different. And episode 2 aired like half an hour ago. So it's been going 2 weeks. And, I think people who liked Redacted Tonight will definitely like this show because I'm lucky in that I'm not like all of the other comedy news shows, which have teams of writers, because getting together teams of writers takes a lot of money and a lot of effort and everything. I just write it all myself. So I'm able to create my own show. Like I said, completely independent now, not connected to RT or anything. And Unredacted Tonight, episode 2 just aired. I covered the Hannibal Directive. I covered how China is managing to beat the United States in so many different areas. And it was an exciting episode. And people seem really excited about it. So if people want to check it out, so you can just go to my Linktree, linktree.com/Lee Camp, or look it up on YouTube.
That's right. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, Lee Camp Unredacted Tonight. I've already watched the very first episode that you sent me. It's good. It's really good, you guys, because I was one of those people that used to watch your RT show. And I missed that. Like all the shows that I used to watch on RT, they were so good. It was you and Chris Hedges, Abby Martin, like Jesse Ventura had a show on RT. Those shows were so good. But I think if you guys liked Redacted tonight, I think you're going to like this one as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's I'm also proud of it because there's really nothing else like it out there. I mean, it's the Daily Show and those shows are not really left wing. They're just liberal, and they don't really get at the heart of what's going on in our system. And in terms of doing that, I don't really know a show like this, at least in the United States. So.
And speaking of that, like you mentioned the Daily Show. So this is another thing. How do you feel about people wanting Jon Stewart to run for president?
I mean, the presidency is a clown show, so what difference would it make? I imagine he'd be better than Donald Trump, but I imagine there's a lot of issues that he's not going to get to the heart of. There's a lot I like about Jon Stewart, but like I played a clip the other day of him talking to Jen Psaki that was going a little viral, of him talking about how the Democrats, as he said, put their finger on the scale to make sure Hillary beat Bernie Sanders in 2016. And I'm like, wow, that's the softest way you could ever say this whole damn thing is rigged. And so he is this kind of soft and cuddly version of slightly left of the Democrats. It just doesn't get at the heart of the system, man. It doesn't get at the heart of capitalism. It doesn't get to, they're not doing extended segments on the Hannibal Directive or on, shadow banks like BlackRock and Vanguard. And it's just a certain level they won't get to.
That's right. And I know some people have been kind of pushing Stephen A. Smith, sports commentator, to run for president as well. And my big
and The Rock.
and The Rock. And like my big warning to people is like talking about these issues on a podcast and actually being a politician are two different things, right? I mean, Lee brought up capitalism. He brought up foreign policy, and it is really important as president of the United States. Like, yeah, you will have to deal with foreign policy. So sometimes people they talk a good game really well on a podcast, but would that transfer over into being a politician, or would they have to go along with, the deep state and the
Well,
billionaire.
that's a good question. I think that's the question that people ask back when people believed in Bernie before he did his I Love Hillary tour. In early 2016, it was like, if he had gotten the presidency, would he have been able to make large scale changes, or would the system have continued very similarly to how it does, how it always seems to? And Trump is kind of testing that. As it does, the system essentially remain the same almost number of bombs being dropped, the same number of people being exploited, the same amount of just extraction of resources around the world. Does any of it really change? And people point at the deep state, they point at the military industrial complex. It's all of those things. It's also just the gravity of capitalism. That's where things are going to go. But
yeah, it's a big question. And I'm curious to hear what you think about this tour. Like, Bernie Sanders is now on this Fight the Oligarchy tour, and he already put out a video asking people to donate $27.
I didn't even know he was touring. Like, he's just speaking, or does he have Molotov cocktails?
He's speaking to the districts that were fairly close, right? So the districts that Biden won in 2020, but Trump won, or the Republicans won. Biden won in 2020, but the Republicans won in those like congressional races. So he's speaking to those areas. So like, he was in Iowa. I think he was also in Nebraska, that type of thing. I found it interesting that he was starting to do this after Jill Stein, Shama Sawant, and Chris Hedges announced their fight, the two parties and oligarchy. Like, it's laughable at this point. And the audacity to ask people for more money again.
Yeah, I mean, and also, like, they tell us every day, the media, so many various leaders, politicians tell us how horrible it is, how horrible the country is, how horrible climate crisis is, how horrible corporate extraction is. It's all going to hell. We're spinning the toilet around the toilet bowl, and the circles are getting tighter and tighter. And then they go, just vote. 4 years from now, make sure you vote. That's what. The way you guys are talking about it, which it is bad, it is accurately bad. Voting it's a tiny little thing you should do. It's a little thing you should do, sometimes you can have influence over local elections and things like that, ballot initiatives, but it's something that should be a tiny little fraction of your efforts. And I know you work with mutual aid and other efforts. It's like those are the things that are going to have a larger impact on our society right now, considering where we are. Maybe years ago, there was bigger impact, but this system is captured. I mean, the Princeton study in 2014 showed it's been captured. It's an oligarchy. It is what you vote for almost matters barely at all. Like, it's especially on the federal level. It is a fraction of what you should do if you actually want to change and alter and influence this system.
That's right. And then that brings me to, speaking of change, what happened today? And this is a big one. So a lot of people were, I guess, somewhat enthusiastic that the Trump administration was going to release. They announced that they're releasing these Epstein files. And I want to show people what was released because I tried to warn people about this. I'm like, you guys really think that they're going to announce all of these clients? So shout out to Hotspot. Breaking: instead of releasing all the Epstein files to the public at once, the Trump White House selectively handed phase 1 to a curated group of right-wing friendly influencers, libs of TikTok, Colin Rugg, DC Drano, Cernovich, and Jack.
All your favorites.
Posted like, yeah. And by the way, all of these people are pro-Israel. I want to show you guys this this little stunt here. Watch this. So they gave the Epstein files, at least phase 1 of them, They put them in these binders and they gave them to right-wing influencers who just happen to be pro-Israel. And people are not happy. Like, and I'm talking about people who supported Trump were not happy with the way that this was handled. What's your take on this, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, will he release names of clients? Yeah, he may, but as they've said, this is a curated list. Like, the Trump administration has already gone through them and taken out names that they don't want on there, such as Trump. And so it's like, yeah, you may find out some things. The other thing is are these lists going to say the actual type of interaction that these people had with them? I mean, I think that a lot of people meeting and connected to Jeffrey Epstein were up to some shit, but does that mean everybody he ever met was sex trafficking? So it is like, unless there's going to be clarity on what type of client list this is, or whether it's just his address book, and if it would have to not be curated by them. We'd have to like see the book written by Jeffrey Epstein. And I don't know if a lot of people remember this. I don't remember a lot of the details. A lot of it's been scrubbed from the internet. But when Trump was running the first time around, there was a lawsuit against him, I believe in the state of New York, that was ultimately scuttled, I guess settled out of court. We don't have the details. But for a while, you'd hear about it very rarely, a lawsuit against him of a woman who said she was raped by him at a Epstein party. And that doesn't mean it happened. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, but that would, if those kind of accusations were flying around and there was a lawsuit against him in that way, he would be on those lists. Like, if he was at Epstein parties, he would be on those lists. So, and of course, there's the photos of Trump happily with Epstein. There's a quote from Trump saying Epstein's one of his favorite guys and he likes women really young. So, of course, these lists would have to be curated. It's I don't know. It's just such a dog and pony show.
Not only that, from what I've seen so far, these are like the flight logs, which when I read about this, I'm like, okay, most of these names were already in the public. They were already known. There's a whole website with the flight, all the people that took the flights that was already on Google. You can Google it yourself and find it. Like, it was already there. So I'm like, I think people thought like, oh my God, we're going to get all the clients' names and this is going to be a big bombshell and we're going to get total transparency, not thinking about the fact that total transparency, at least in this particular situation, that means that you would have to implicate Israel, because you have to get back to who was Jeffrey Epstein actually working for. So obviously they're not going to keep anything in there that ties back to the Mossad.
Yeah, and there's been plenty of good research connecting Epstein to Mossad. Ghislaine Maxwell is very connected to Israel. Her father was buried in Israel in like a honorary ceremony, as if he was like a member of the state, like a state burial. It reeks of somehow being connected to Mossad, or maybe being a Mossad operation. And of course, none of these lists are going to say anything about that. They used Epstein and Maxwell as, I don't want to call them just scapegoats, because they also are guilty. So it's they should be scapegoated in that way. They are guilty, but they used them and acted like those are the only ones. It's kind of like Bernie Madoff. It was just Bernie and no one else that did all the pillaging of Wall Street. It's kind of similar with they've done this with Maxwell and with Epstein. It was a much larger organization and effort than that. And we'll see what we find out from these lists. But let's also remember that the FBI, after Epstein was arrested, the FBI went to his mansion in New York, filled up trucks worth, not to mention his other island and other residencies, filled up trucks worth of evidence. There were like cameras in every room. Those tapes have to be somewhere. Trucks worth of evidence. And where did that go? They just drove it into the Hudson, I think. Like, we never see any of this.
They had tapes also at his previous home in Palm Springs. They had tapes going back then too. So they've been known for quite some time. But what's interesting is even Representative Anna Paulina, even she's not happy about this. She said, I nor the task force were given or reviewed the Epstein documents being released today. A New York Post story just revealed that the documents will simply be Epstein's phone book. This is not what we or the American people asked for, and a complete disappointment. Get us the information that we asked for. So, and this is all, if you guys go on like to X, you'll see a lot of people are like not happy about this, that those binders were given to a select group of people instead of just releasing all that information to the public. People are just not happy about the way that this was done.
It's funny that even she's saying that, because she's, I think, the one in charge of the committee to release the information on JFK and RFK and MLK. And when it came out, when she announced that, like, okay, we have this committee to release these files, everyone's kind of like, wait, why are you curating those files too? So all those files about what happened to JFK, now, let's be honest, the CIA has probably burned anything that actually mattered long ago, but all those files are going through her and a committee before they get released to us. Releasing files does not need to go through a committee, especially files that are, 60 years old. Like,
no. And then, well, the JFK files, you don't even really need anyway, because I just interviewed Kim McCarthy, who wrote a book with journalist Rick Sterling about the JFK stuff. Like, they already had those documents, because when I talked to Rick Sterling over a year ago, this was connected to the article that he had for Mint Press News, where they showed photocopies of those JFK like documents. They already published this stuff. This is what I was trying to tell people. Like, people are like, oh, we're finally going to get, I'm like, guys, most of this stuff is already out there. It's already, they're not going to, for example, let's say there's someone that's on that list. Let's say that's really high up in government in Israel, for example. Do people really think they're going to leave that name there?
Yeah.
It just,
no.
But that makes me wonder, because like, I know a lot of people, like, one of the things I said about like Doge, and I want to get your opinion about this. I like the fact of having government transparency. I think we should know how the government is spending the money and spending like our tax dollars. We should know that. But it also is weird that like Elon Musk has taken things obviously a step further. And it's just like, he's just coming in and telling people that they're fired and laying people off and all this kind of stuff. And now it's like, okay, you guys said that you were going to make cuts. Like you said, you were going to make cuts to the Pentagon, but it looks like, okay, you're firing people, which is what I predicted would happen. We were talking about cutting the budget, right? Like, we were talking about stop sending weapons, stop sending arms. But they're not going to do that.
Well, and even the Washington Post ran with a headline saying they were going to cut the Pentagon budget heavily. But the truth is, they said, or that money might be reallocated within the Pentagon to a different department. Well, guess what? That's not cutting, is it? So Trump's said these comments about cutting the Pentagon, and I think it's largely bullshit. I think the Pentagon will be as big or bigger when he leaves office in 4 years. They are firing a bunch of employees. Some of them I am not going to shed tears for. USAID is basically a coup-making machine around the world, so I'm not going to get too upset about that. But other ones, like the aim largely overall is to like gut the things that will stop them from doing what they want. And what do they want is largely to gut social programs and give giant tax cuts to the rich, basically make the rich richer by a lot, $1 trillion tax cuts. And meanwhile, they're going to save, $40 billion by firing people. Well, how does that math work out? Or you look at their hilarious lies about Social Security. They're in a White House Oval Office press conference saying, oh, Social Security, Elon Musk is standing there saying Social Security has thousands of people over 120 years old on their rolls receiving benefits. Well, yeah, spend 2 seconds Googling and you can find the truth. Are there a bunch of people over 120 on Social Security, on the Social Security rolls? Yes. Are they receiving benefits? No, they're not alive. And it just means that their death date has not been entered into the system. So if like all told, the out of millions and millions of people who've been on the Social Security, system at some point, they've found 13 that are dead and receiving benefits, meaning someone in their family must be cheating the system somehow. It is 0.00001%. It is a minuscule nothing. So why is Elon Musk and Donald Trump so concerned about these dead people getting benefits? Because they want to slash Social Security and give giant tax cuts to the rich. It is as simple as that.
Well, one of the things I was going to mention too, I'm curious to get your take on this. At the same time, we are seeing Democrat politicians complain about how a billionaire can come in and just make decisions. I feel like they don't really have room to talk, because where was this same anger when Kamala Harris was taking all that money from billionaires, right? Where was that same anger? Where was that same anger towards George Soros or Bill Gates or all the other billionaire donors that the Democratic Party also takes money from? Where was that same frustration and that same anger? So it's like, if the Democratic Party was a party that didn't take corporate money, then I feel like they could have a leg to stand on. But it's comical to me that Jasmine Crockett and all these other people are like, oh, we have a billionaire who's running the government. You don't say. Like, it's laughable to me.
Yeah, really all it is Trump accidentally, and he did this in his first term too, accidentally is revealing what our system is. You know, he said the quiet part loud. He called other countries shithole countries. He, stated that he wanted to take the oil in Syria and we should have taken the oil in Iraq. He basically reveals the system for what it is. And Elon Musk and billionaires, and he has the most billionaires ever in a cabinet by a long mile, something like 13 or something. Billionaires now directly run the government. That's the only difference. They used to run it, but in the shadows. For a long time now, the point of the federal government was to put a shield between the ruling billionaires, corporatocracy, whatever you want to call them, put a shield between them and the people. That government was there so the people, rather than screaming at the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts, would be screaming at their elected representatives. Well, now they've gotten rid of that shield, and literally the billionaires are standing before us. And so, maybe this will wake people up. Maybe they'll go, hey, I used to think it was the government is the problem. Now I see, it's the billionaires that's the problem. I don't know. I wonder why Luigi Mangione is so loved across the country.
And there you go. So I think this is a revealing moment, but again, there's only so much I feel like they can really say because they're not against it. Hakeem Jeffries right now, I don't know if you saw this. Hakeem Jeffries was interviewed very briefly, and he supports Andrew Cuomo running again for mayor of New York. He supports Andrew Cuomo being mayor of New York, the same guy who killed all those people in the nursing home, the same guy who's accused of sexually harassing like his coworkers. This is insane. And then it was just announced today that Democrats are actually eyeing Andrew Cuomo for president. So to me, it's like, if you're going to sit back and you're going to say that Trump is a felon, is a criminal, what do you think Andrew Cuomo is?
Yeah, no, they do this a lot where someone will face these accusations, whether it be negligence or malfeasance or corruption or sexual assault. And, they go away for a couple of years and then they do a brand laundering and then they come back and they're beloved again. And, it's like, Giuliani was a despised mayor. Then after 9/11, he became the daddy of the country and everyone adored him. And they were talking about, they wanted him to be president the day after 9/11. And then it came back around and now he's a clown again. But it's like the brand laundering that goes on is just incredible that these people can be so disgusting, can be revealed for what they really are. And then a year goes by and we go, hey, let's have Cuomo back in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's absurd to me. And that's why I'm like, you guys, like, again, if you didn't have some of these same issues in your party as well, then I could say, yeah, you have a leg to stand on. But you sit up there and push and promote someone like Andrew Cuomo, there's that. And then on top of that, you also have Hakeem Jeffries telling everybody, I mean, what do you want us to do? We can't do anything. Like, what do you? It's just, it's a mess. If people don't understand like who they really work for, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the Democrats want to tell us that you know, Trump is Hitler and everything, and then they sit in their seats and they go, "What can we do?" I thought you just told us if he's Hitler, I think there's a lot of things you could do. Like, but you know, it's they're all clowns. They're there to extract money from the working class and make it look like they're trying to help us. That's their daily job. And, you know, I think they prefer having Trump in office because then the Democrats can go, we're the resistance. Oh, really? Then why didn't you do anything to help the people the 4 years you were in power?
Right. It's always reactive. That's a big part of the problem, is that it's reactive instead of being proactive. And that's a big part of it. And then I think about like the foreign policy perspective, right? Like we all know that Israel, both parties support Israel. Now, there may be some members of the Democratic Party that have stood up against it and said, no, this is not right. But the parties do support and endorse Israel. And it's almost like one of the easiest things I feel that Kamala Harris could have done to distance herself from Joe Biden was to be different on Israel. And she wasn't willing to do it. She wouldn't even go to Dearborn. Did you know that? I talked to people in Dearborn. I talked to them. People called me from Dearborn and I spoke to them. She wouldn't even go.
Yeah. Yeah. No. She would have won the election if she had been willing to stand up against this ethnic cleansing, against this genocide. But the Democrats do not do that. I mean, they have never been willing to do that. And, you know, I say that as a Jewish person, that it's just pathetic that we can witness. This is the first like large scale genocide, ethnic cleansing that has been live streamed. And to have them say, oh, don't believe your lying eyes is just crazy. It's just so remarkably despicable. And to me, it just like, I hope it shreds anyone's belief that these people care about truth, care about human beings, care about people in general. Like, how could you sit back and let this happen and do nothing and claim it's not happening? And then we're supposed to believe that on other issues, you actually care about us. You actually care about human beings. It's just remarkably pathetic. But again, it reveals the system. All these things that are going on, we're in a massive age of transformation, and all these things are going on reveal the system for what it is. And it's, you know, maybe been this way for a while, but I don't know that everyone saw it so crystal clear until recently.
I don't think so either. This is another myth. No protest about Trump, Gaza. Where are they at now? Asking for a friend. That's interesting because Status Quo has been covering those protests. They've been on the ground covering them. There are people occupying Hens Hall right now. So either you're not doing your own research or you're ignoring it on purpose. Like, that's the thing that kills me, is like, you don't have to want to be right so bad that you get it wrong.
Yeah, and well, the other funny thing was the liberal media, when Trump announced, you know, we're going to take over Gaza and we're going to, you know, pave it over and put in a resort. When he announced that, the liberal media for the first time, and I mean the liberal side of the media, not Fox News, but for the first time, started calling it ethnic cleansing. You saw MSNBC, at least Chris Hayes did a segment on it. You saw, you know, Fairness and Accuracy Reporting listed all of them that, you know, Seth Meyers and others that were suddenly saying, oh, Trump endorsed ethnic cleansing in the Oval Office. And it's like, okay, true. Where were you for the past year? Like, where were you since October 8th that this has been going on? Now that Trump's in office, now you'll call it what it is. At least some of the time.
Exactly. But we predicted that was going to happen. We predicted that, like, if Trump won, they would then start to speak out against it. But while Biden was in office, just like this book that Jake Tapper is announcing right now, you know, it's like, now all of a sudden you guys want to admit.
Is it a coloring book? Because that's all that should come out of his head.
No, it's just it's such a game. It's such a game. But Lee, thank you so much for your time. Again, where can people find you? I think Roger was asking a question about, yes, what other streaming services are you on?
Oh, thanks, Roger. Yeah, I live stream 3 days a week now at youtube.com/@realleecamp and at rumble.com/leecamp. And then Unredacted Tonight is also on, that's once a week, is also on both of those platforms. But the easiest thing is probably just go to the link that's on the screen right now, linktree.com/leecamp. At least, if you're not willing to give me anything else, at least check one episode of Unredacted Tonight and see what you think.
Check it out, guys. This is really good. Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabby. Keep at it.
Bye. All right, guys. Again, that was Lee Camp. He's awesome. He's like cool. I actually got to meet Lee Camp. Not last year, it was 2023. I got to meet him when I went to DC. One of the times I was in DC. Funny dude. Check it out, guys. It is really good. I like it. But we have a lot to discuss, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to some of these comments and then we will dive into other stories. Again, the theme tonight is Fool Me Once, and we have a lot to get into. I also had a good announcement for you guys that you'll be happy to hear. Shout out to Chaz Mitchell for becoming a new member. Let's give Chaz a big whoop whoop. John, thank you, Sabrina Salvati, ADOS Forever 2025. You are welcome. Ooh, I have a good one for you, John. I have a good story for you tonight. Spotlight, thank you. Vicky Dillard getting featured tonight. Is this heaven? Oh, yes, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one tonight, you guys. Shout out to Megan for gifting one Sabby membership. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, New York Varsity. Yo, it's Street Jesus. Love y'all for this. Thank you, Charlie. Always a great conversation when you have Lee on. Much love for you both. Thank you. Thanks, New York Varsity. Go ahead and run, Cuomo. Vance is licking his chops. By the way, I live in LA and want Ware on my podcast if he is running for California governor. Yeah, I had him on about that, and so did Bree. You'll want to reach out to Jason Call on X. That's his campaign manager. And thank you, Natalie. I truly believe the Dems who are left only because they are... Oh, I'm sorry. I truly believe the Dems who are left only because they and the Republicans call them left suck on purpose to push the populace further right. That's an interesting theory. Interesting theory. Hey. All right, guys, if you haven't done so, smash that like button. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share like a Care Bear. And we are going to dive into some interesting stories. We'll shout out patrons, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and give them some love. Thank you to everyone who is a Sabby patron. If you're interested in being one, I have 5 categories: ultimate, Sabinators. There's also a group called Sabsters. They're pretty cool, you know. They're hanging in there. There's also Sabbies. Don't forget about them. Hey. And of course, we also have members. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. All of the lovely people. Thank you guys so much. And we have a new Sabby patron. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for a Hillary. That's an interesting name. A Hillary. Thank you and welcome back, fam. Well. You guys will have to excuse me a little bit. If you cannot tell, I do have a little bit of a cold. I've been able to go all winter without getting one, so it was bound to happen eventually. But so hope that's okay. All right, again, the theme is Fool Me Once. We're going to get started with this story here coming out of the Middle East. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Israel is still up to its usual tricks. It appears that Israel is now bombing Syria again, in particular Damascus, and they have raided the West Bank. Now, I want to take you back for just a second to remind you what happened in Syria. There was that overthrow of Assad. During that time, there was somewhat of a split, and some people who were, pro-Palestinian were happy that Assad was overthrown, and others were not. One of the things I tried to warn you about is that this is regime change. And with regime change, the people are usually worse off after regime change than they were before the regime. And now we are starting to see Israel's full plan come into fruition. I told you guys during that time that this was really a win for Israel. And now you're going to see why. So what happens? Israel strikes targets in southern Syria after demanding demilitarization. So does everybody see what's going on now? Israel is demanding that Syria demilitarizes. They do not want people in southern Syria to be able to defend themselves. That's really what this is about. Don't forget, even when I would talk about Gaza, I would continue to tell you, Gaza didn't have a military, right? So that's really what Israel wants. And they also do not want southern Syria to become part of Lebanon. They don't want that merger there as well. And indeed, they do want to go in and take over, which is part of the greater Israel plan. We're going to get into a little bit here from The Guardian. Israeli warplanes have carried out several airstrikes on military targets outside Damascus and in southern Syria. We'll jump down here. Israeli jets struck military sites late on Tuesday in the town of Kiswa, south of Damascus, as well as in the southern province of Deraa. This is according to local Syrian media. The Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, confirmed the strikes in southern Syria and warned that Israel will not allow southern Syria to become southern Lebanon. Katz added that any attempt by Syrian regime forces and the country's terrorist organizations to establish themselves in the security zone of southern Syria will be met with fire. So I think we all see what is happening here. Again, this is after the overthrow of Assad. Now, I have seen this happen before in other countries. Remember, we can talk about the overthrow of Saddam Hussein and what happened there. That gave way for the rise of ISIS. These regime changes do not benefit the people in those areas in the long run, right? So Israel here is getting what they want. They are again going in and attacking Syria. We'll jump down to this part right here. It says that hours before the Israeli bombings on Tuesday, Syria condemned Israel's invasion of the buffer zone and called for it to withdraw its forces from Syrian territory. The statement was issued at the end of a national dialogue conference, which gathered hundreds of Syrian activists and leaders to plan the country's post-Assad political transition. But that country is not going to be able to plan the transition. You know who's going to plan that? Israel and the United States. That's how regime change works. So we have them going into Syria and attacking Syria yet again. And now it appears that there are protests from activists in Syria. Let's go ahead and bring this up here. الشعب السوري واحد 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 الشعب السوري واحد سوري واحد 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 الشعب السوري واحد 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 الشعب السوري واحد. أنا من الجولان المحتل يلي الجيش الإسرائيلي أساساً هجر. I'll read some of this for you. She said the Israeli army, they displaced my father and my grandfather. They said they always had a checkpoint that stood for 54 years, but because of Israel, people from Idlib were banned from entering, right? So this is important. So they're saying that people from Syria couldn't get in without, unless they had a security like checkpoint. The regime fell August 12th and on September 12th. And Israel entered. We do not need Israel to work for us. So does everybody see what's happening here? And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. If they resist this in any way, shape, or form, what do you think Israel is going to do? They'll deem them as terrorists and they'll kill them. See, this is how, and I explained this before, this is how you get a group like Hamas. This is how you get these groups form, because you're not letting these people decide their own fate and their own destiny. You're coming in, is basically colonialism, a brutal colonialism. You're coming in and you're saying, this is what you are going to do, or we are going to kill you. And the United States government is backing that. The US government agrees with that. How would you feel if someone came to your town and said, this is what you are going to do, or we are going to dispose of you? How would you feel? Always try to put yourself in their shoes. So when I say fool me once, this is one of the things that I was talking about, because the reality is I didn't fall for that. When they said they were going in, oh, we just overthrew Assad, this is great, everyone should be happy. I didn't fall for that, because we know what happens when these leaders are overthrown by the West. We know what's going to come of these people. So this is how you get a resistance. And the history books will skip all that I probably told you, right? They'll only tell you the side that makes Israel look good. And they'll say that these militant groups just rose up and wanted to tear down Israel. And they'll totally leave out the fact that Israel brought it to that point. Israel, she said, is invading our land and they are displacing people from their homes. Same thing that's happening in the West Bank, right? So the same thing that they have been doing, and I warned you would happen, they are now doing it in Syria. So here we go again. So that part is important, and you guys can see that another time. But the base of this is she's telling you that they're taking their weapons away from them. So if they take their weapons away from you, you will not be able to defend yourself. But they still have their weapons. Imagine this, folks. How would you feel if the police all of a sudden in your town showed up one day and started knocking on everyone's doors and say, guess what? We are going to be arms free. Just like you have those dry towns. We're going to be arms free. And that means everybody got to turn in your guns. You don't turn them in, we're taking them. But the police still get to keep their guns. That's not fair. That's what Israel is doing. They're taking that away from them, And it's not just Syria. We also go to the West Bank, and you need to see what they did there. They are now saying that Israel is turning the West Bank into a mini Gaza. Now, a lot of people will point to this and they'll say, oh, well, don't you guys wish you would have voted for Kamala Harris? No, because Israel was going into the West Bank when Biden and Kamala were in office. This isn't new. They've been going into the West Bank. They've been kicking people out of their homes in the West Bank, stealing their homes, holding people up by gunpoint. This is not new. This has been going on for years. But now what you see happening, and this is why it was so important that Biden or Kamala would have held them accountable. But what Biden wouldn't say publicly, a lot of people know privately, which is that he supported everything that Israel was doing. This is why it was so important that they should have been the ones to hold Israel accountable. They wouldn't. So you see now going into the West Bank here, look at what they did.
Just a warning that this report contains distressing images and a moment a Palestinian boy is shot who then later died in hospital.
A bulldozer in the Tulkarm refugee camp demolishes homes in emptied-out Palestinian neighborhoods. It's part of Operation Iron Wall, an Israeli military offensive targeting the northern West Bank with airstrikes, house demolitions and door-to-door raids, launched 2 days after the Gaza ceasefire was agreed.
And the Israeli soldiers did this?
Zainab Qasim shows us how Israeli troops ransacked her neighbor's apartment, ripping through their possessions and firing into walls, holding her children at gunpoint.
I have a daughter with special needs. She couldn't understand what was happening or what it means when a weapon is pointed at her head.
I was so scared. I even started crying. I was worried about my brother. They were so aggressive. They were screaming so much.
The family have had to evacuate 3 times since the operation began.
This has become a mini Gaza. If I showed you the streets just behind that door, you would say this is Gaza.
But let Western media tell it, let the US government tell it, and they'll tell you that the people that you see in the screen, they're the ones that you need to be afraid of. When it's very clear that Israel is the one that is terrorizing these people. And this was the plan. And I said it, and someone mentioned in the chat, thank you for reminding me, when I covered the Jeffrey Sachs speech, he acknowledged this. He talked about this in front of the European Parliament. And he told them, he said, you guys, this was the plan years ago for Israel to take southern part of Syria, part of Lebanon, to recapture, claim the West Bank, and to take Gaza. That is the part of the great. Now, what is not mentioned often, you don't hear Netanyahu saying this, but if you look at that map again, that greater Israel map, it also looks like it includes part of Jordan. So this is what the plan has been. It's colonialism. This is brutal. And we have Congress people, we have politicians that say, I stand with Israel and always Israel on both sides. So you can't point fingers and say it's just the Republicans. You can't point fingers and say it's just the Democrats. No, it's both of them. This is what they support, including some of the black ones. So you have black politicians supporting colonialism. Make that make sense.
It's not on the scale of Gaza, but critics say the operation is a compensation of sorts to the extremist right wing who didn't want the Gaza war to end and who are holding up Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition. And it has already displaced 40,000 people.
Israel says this is about rooting out militant groups to make sure that another October the 7th doesn't originate from the West Bank. But if you look at the destruction, the fact that they've bombed homes, destroyed the infrastructure, taken out the water systems, the electricity, it looks very much like the ultimate aim is to make it impossible for Palestinians to return.
And that's right. That is ultimately what the goal is. You heard what she just said? So again, when I say fool me once, Israel doesn't want peace. They've showed us over and over again that they don't. But they also don't want people in Syria, Gaza, or any of these other, they don't want them to be able to have any weapons. They don't want them to be able to defend themselves, but they can continue to have weapons and go in and terrorize the community and the people. And people support it. And people support it because that's what they're paid to do. I want you to hear what this gentleman said on News Nation. Listen to this.
I do want to get your take on some breaking news that my producers are telling me in my ear. It's just coming down right now. Israel, for the first time in decades, sending tanks into the West Bank, saying fleeing Palestinians cannot return. Israel moving into the occupied West Bank, as we said, for the very first time in decades. Palestinian authorities are calling this a dangerous escalation. Can you give us any color or context here?
They haven't previously used tanks in the West Bank. There is unrest in the West Bank, but all of this is associated with the larger issue of what's the future of Israel and how does it go about? It's still got troops in Lebanon. Hamas has not been defeaed. Hamas still has hostages. There's a phase 2 to be done. Iran is weak. President Trump is a strong supporter of Bibi Netanyahu. So what is the future? And there are strong forces in Israel that said, get rid of the Palestinians, go for a one-state solution. And so this has to be viewed as a step in that direction.
Okay. He said the quiet part out loud. They are moving towards a one-state solution, meaning they are trying to cleanse the land. Because what's going to happen is, if you're not willing to live under Israel's rule and their law, they're going to get rid of you. And they're going to push them. So give it an amount of time before they start telling the people in southern Syria, yeah, you guys got to go too. It is very upsetting. It's disturbing. And it's one of those situations where I feel really helpless. And you'll even see Stephen Witkoff. He's going to say it out loud here, what the real plan is. I mean, they're not being quiet about it. They're not.
In terms of the Iranian crescent, it's basically been decimated. Look at what's happened with Syria. No one ever thought that that was going to happen. We've got an epic election in Lebanon. And so tons of things happening. Lebanon, by the way, could actually normalize and come into the Abraham Peace Accords, as could even potentially Syria. So many profound changes are happening there, and yet it's been a flashpoint of conflict. And I think that there's a possibility that we end it.
So let me explain to you what he's really saying when he says, oh, it's an opportunity that they can come into the Abraham Accords. What that means is that Israel is going to take over that land. Because of all of these, there have been so many. One second. Sorry about that. There have been so many, chances here, right? So many different agreements that have been on the table. Don't forget about the Arab Peace Initiative in 2002, which Israel rejected. There have been a number. But the reality is, Israel wants their own agreement, and that's the one that they want in place. They're not willing to sign any agreement that is going to benefit the Arab people. There's no equality here. Forget equity. There's no equality. There's none. And you can't be a citizen. And I got to say this. You cannot be a citizen of the United States and be okay with that. And you can't sit up there and stand and say, I'm fighting for Black Lives Matter if you agree with what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people and the Syrian people. You can't be okay with that. You're joking, right? Think about that. Think about that when you see some of your politicians who say, oh, we got to protect people here. We got to do this. And they'll stand up and say, we need equality. We have to fight for equality. But they are voting for legislation that is against that. They're all bought and paid for. Never forget that. Let's go to some of the comments here, and then we'll hop over to the next story. Thank you very much. Okay. I think I clicked on the wrong one. Thank you, Tim. Medea Benjamin is headed to Syria to protest and advocate. Awesome. Medea's on it, huh? Thank you, Wasim. There are rumors in Syria that al-Julani is an Israeli spy pretending to be Arab. Ooh, it happened before in the 1960s, where an Israeli spy was planted so well in Syria that he almost became the defense minister of Syria until he got discovered by Syria. Well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Shout out to Regine Jolly for the super sticker. Thank you. Thank you for this one as well, Wasim. There was no Hezbollah until Israel occupied southern Lebanon. What do you think will happen in southern Syria, especially when Israel is starting to kick out Syrians from their homes now? Exactly. This is how you get the resistant. This is how you get those resistant groups. Thank you, New York Varsity. There is a bigger problem here than Gaza, Sabs. We have American boots on the ground on a large scale in Syria. Any resistance would be considered an act of war against the U.S. And here we go again. There you go. Thanks, Wasim. Also, Sabby, they are now admitting that 200 special ops USA went into Gaza and did not come out. Also in the UK, they are criticizing the BBC for being so blatantly pro-Israel and being schooled by Sky News of all news orgs. It's interesting, huh? That's interesting about special ops that didn't come out. Thank you, Mark. The Israelis are reenacting the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto with them as the Z's. We have to say Z's on here. You know how YouTube can be. And thank you, Paul. Israel simply doesn't want Palestinians to exist. Just unholy amounts of evil. Disgusting. Absolutely. It's crazy stuff, you guys. And this is even crazier. We're diving into this story here about the Medicaid cuts. So far, the House has passed a bill that is going to have Medicaid cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. Now, if you look at the bill, it makes it pretty obvious who they're trying to help here. They're trying to help the rich people. They're trying to make it so that billionaires, wealthy people don't have to pay as much in taxes. So Donald Trump has gone on record and has said, well, no, the cuts won't actually be applied to anyone's healthcare plan. People aren't going to lose their Medicaid. However, there is going to be an impact to the states. And that's what I want to talk about here tonight, because I do want to make it very clear to people what's going to happen to the funds, right? So let's get into this clip here first, where they were talking about the votes. We're going to bring in what this representative here had to say, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the specifics.
He joins me now. Congressman, I know you're a no because it's a party line vote. What do you make of the developments today?
Well, I couldn't agree more with my colleague, Representative Aguilar. Ultimately, my Republican colleagues are going to have to answer to the American people as to how they could possibly justify cutting Medicaid to the tune of $800 billion, food assistance to the tune of $200 million, all to pay for, in part, tax cuts for the richest Americans, billionaires and corporations. It's a betrayal of the middle class. And as you've noted on this program, not a single Democrat voted in support of this proposal tonight for exactly that reason. It's a reckless economic scheme that I ultimately believe will be deeply unpopular with the American people. And we're already starting to see some of that outrage in the town halls that have developed across the country over just the last few days. It's unfortunate that none of my Republican colleagues, at least at this juncture, it appears, are willing to stand up for their own constituents. But we'll have to see how this unfolds.
So let's go ahead and pause here for a second. And you can see there is one Republican that said no, and we'll get into who that was. But I'm pretty sure some of you can already guess. But other than that one, everyone else voted for it in the Republican Party. All the Democrats voted nay, or 212 voted nay, right? And then we have 1 NV for the Republican and 3 NV for the Democrats. But let's talk about those constituents for just a second, because the reality is there are a lot of people that are on Medicaid. I say this as someone who worked in the healthcare industry. A lot of people are on Medicaid, and it's not just people who are Democrats. So we're talking about there's a lot of people, particularly in some of those rural districts, that are on Medicaid that voted for Donald Trump, right? That voted to support and are Republican, voted to support the Republican Party. So this is going against everybody. This is not just directed towards, oh, we're going to get back at the Democrats. No. There are a lot of white people that are on Medicaid, older people that are on Medicaid. This assumption that it's just a bunch of black people who don't want to pay for things that are on Medicaid, that's not true. And I say that because this gentleman here, Nick Adams, he seems to think this way. If you can pay $175 to get your nails done and $250 for sneakers, then my tax dollars shouldn't be paying for your food stamps. And this is getting to the SNAP issue as well. And I'm going to let you hear him say this in the video, and then I'm going to explain to you where he's off here. Listen to this.
All right, listen. I tweeted it, I meant it, and I am not apologizing for it. If you've got $175 to drop on a fresh manicure and $250 for the latest sneakers, then my tax dollars shouldn't be footing your food stamp bill, period.
Pause. First of all, I don't know where people are getting their nails done, but I don't know any salon that charges $175 for a manicure. Do you, ladies in the chat, do you know of a salon that charges $175 for a manicure? A manicure is one of the cheapest services that you can get at the nail salons, right? And then you can get the gel. The gel costs a little bit more, but even the gel, and I live in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is expensive. Even the gel doesn't cost $175. So there's that. Let's continue.
By every single word, our welfare system is a mess, riddled with fraud, exploited by welfare queens and EBT abusers who treat it like a free ride. That's what it's for. Government help was supposed to be a hand up, not a handout forever. It's about getting people back on their feet, not keeping them comfy on my dime. Go scroll TikTok or Instagram right now. Thugs and lowlifes flexing their fudge rounds and crab legs, all bought with your money. It's a disgrace. I'm done with it, and I'm not sorry for saying it. No more excuses, no more apologies. Time to fix this mess.
Okay, so the problem with his statement there is that it's an exaggeration, right? Like, are there some people who may abuse the system? Yes, that's the case with any type of, service. There were people when I worked in higher ed, there were people at the university that abused some of the systems that we had at the university, but that's not the majority. So he's looking at TikTok videos and making a case off of that. When he talked about the food, I want to be very clear here. What people continue to leave out is that there are a number of food deserts in this country. There are food deserts in one of the wealthiest states in the country, which is my state here in Massachusetts. There are food deserts here. And for those who are not aware, a food desert is an area that doesn't have a grocery store. You have nothing to do with that. That is not your fault. So in food deserts, oftentimes what happens is that when people do go to buy groceries, they are getting food from delis, convenience stores, Walgreens, CVS. That's where they're doing their grocery shopping because they don't have a grocery store. This is why I pushed back when RFK said, oh, we're going to stop SNAP from people getting all these kind of junk food and stuff. Okay, I understand where he's coming from because people say back in the day, food stamps didn't only allow you to get certain types of food. I understand that, but that is going to affect people that live in food deserts. In food deserts, they don't have a lot of fresh foods. They don't have a lot. You don't see a lot of fruits and vegetables. And to be honest with you, if you want my advice, do not buy fruits or vegetables from the deli, okay? Because sometimes that stuff be looking fresh and it's not no fresh. Don't buy milk from the deli either, because I bought milk from the deli many, many years ago. And the date said one thing and it definitely was not okay to drink. So along the way, you learn there's certain things that you can't buy from there, right? But that's an exaggeration. There are people that are on Medicaid and people that are on food stamps that are elderly, that are only getting by, barely getting by off their Social Security. Ask yourself these questions. Ask yourself, why is a 70 or 80-year-old person working at the gas station? I can't go to one gas station within a 10-mile radius where the person who is working there standing on their feet behind the counter is someone who is elderly who should be retired, but they can't retire because they need the money. So these are the things that he doesn't want to mention. He doesn't want to get into. But how did we get here? We got here because, again, I think that the Democrats really messed up on some things. One of them, Maxine Waters. And I want you to hear what Maxine Waters had to say here about these services being cut.
We're no. Democrats are no on this budget. It is outrageous that you all have the audacity to come here with this budget that harms so many Americans and ask us to support billionaires and think we're going to buy it? You think we're going to support it? Well, you got another thought coming. We ain't doing.
But you have been doing it, Maxine. That's the problem. You did do it, Maxine. You did support the billionaires. The whole damn party supported the billionaires. That's the problem. That's why you don't have a leg to stand on. The other thing I want to add to this is just a couple of years ago, Maxine Waters was on camera telling people in her district who were homeless, who showed up to meet her to get their voucher, their housing vouchers. And she told them, nothing is going to be done for you today. Go home. She told homeless people to go home. Now, that was when Biden and Kamala were in office. Now that Donald Trump's in office, now she wants to stand up and fight. Where was all this fighting when you told the homeless people in your district to go home? That's how we got here. The Republicans don't want to help the people when it comes to social services 100%. But the Democrats, you kind of let this happen. You let it happen. Because if you had been doing for the people, we wouldn't even have Trump in the White House right now. So you have to take a look in the mirror and understand how you failed the people. Now, obviously, this bill has to go to the Senate. So far, we have one Republican who doesn't seem like he is going to support it. And that is Josh Hawley. Let's see how this goes.
Senator Hawley. Yeah, I have a question for you. I have a question for you.
Can't be late. Real quick.
How concerned are you about these Medicaid cuts that are forthcoming in this budget resolution that the House put forward yesterday?
Well, there'll have to be a lot of negotiations between the House and the Senate. I'm glad the House advanced that package. I mean, they have to keep the reconciliation process going. It needs to go faster. But the Senate's not going to. I'm not going to vote for Medicaid cuts, benefit cuts. Work requirements, fine, but 21% of the residents of my state receive Medicaid or CHIP. That's a lot of people. It's like 1.5 million people in Missouri. So work requirements, sure, 100%, but anything that slashes into benefits for people who are working, I'm not going to be for it. I think that's probably true of a lot of my colleagues, but ultimately.
Okay, so I hate when I hate that those cards come up before people are finished talking. I hate that. But anyway, Josh, everyone hold him to that. Josh Hawley, he is saying that this would greatly impact people in his district, but he's not the only one, right? A lot of these by the way, you need to look up and see how your congressman voted, because especially if you're on Medicaid, because a lot of these Republicans who voted to make these cuts, they have people in their district who are on Medicaid and people in their district that need SNAP benefits. Now, we will have to see how he votes when that bill reaches the Senate, because sometimes people talk good game and we don't know. But he made that on record there that it looks like he said, I don't know, like this would not benefit people in my district. Now, I want to show you how this is going to impact the local level. Because if you look here, the Republican House budget resolution potential $880 billion in Medicaid cuts by congressional district. This is what people need to pay attention to. And I just want to highlight this part here and make this a little bit bigger. Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program, which is CHIP, cover essential life-saving health care for nearly 1 in 4 Americans, including low-income individuals and families, pregnant women, seniors, and people with disabilities. So, see, this is another thing I wanted to point out. The number of people on Medicaid that are disabled. So when people make these statements like, oh, just go get a job, stop being lazy, go get it, you know what I mean? They think it's just people just trying to be cheap and cheat the system and not willing to work that are on Medicaid. That is not the majority. And I know because I used to do the claims. I told you guys this before, right? That I used to work in healthcare industry and I used to work with those claims and the billing. That's how I know. So when we go on here, it says for nearly 80 million people covered by Medicaid or CHIP, those programs mean being able to see a doctor when they are sick, obtain medication, or afford home-based care or nursing home services near the end of life. Check this out. The Republican House budget resolution currently under consideration instructs the House Energy and Commerce Committee to cut at least $880 billion in costs going through 2034. So let's go to how this would impact the local districts, because what it's showing here is those cuts by congressional districts. So if we look at just a couple here, all right. So Alabama, for example, all these people, Barry Moore, Michael Rogers, yada, yada, all the different representatives, you can see depending on the district, what the cuts are going to be. So it says district funding loss, 1.89 billion for Barry Moore. For Nick, Begich, whatever his last name is, for Nick, 2.06 billion district loss. So what people have to understand is that this is still connected. The states get the approval from the federal government, but what they're trying to do is kick it back to the states. And check this out. What did I tell you last year when we were covering the ballot measures, right? We're going to get into the results of the ballot measures and hopefully in a couple of weeks. I have been warning you guys. You have been seeing the Supreme Court make decisions to send it back to the states. You saw it with Roe v. Wade. Let's send it back to the states. Let the states decide. Not going to be a federal level thing. Now you're seeing with this. This is all going back to the local level. What we are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, more and more decisions are being pushed back to the states. And this is why I continue to say that local politics is important. I know a lot of people don't pay attention to it, but guys, you got to start paying attention. If you don't know who your city councilor is, find out who your city councilor is. They approve the budget. They approve the budget. You don't know who your mayor is? Look it up. Look it up. These town meetings are free and available to everybody. You can go. I've been to them. You're not familiar with who the governor is? Look it up. Because the more the federal government continues to kick these decisions, these policies back to the states, that's more funding that is going to come from the states, which means if the states are having to use more money now to allocate towards this, for example, for the Medicaid and the SNAP cuts or whatever, that means they're going to pull that money from somewhere. And from my experience, they usually tend to pull it from education. They usually defund public education to pay for other things. When I was growing up, there was this program called Save the Music. You guys familiar with Save the Music? You know why? Because they were defunding music programs at public schools to pay for other things. This here by Common Dreams really does hit the nail on the head. It says, showing you exactly who they work for. The GOP votes to gut Medicaid for tax cuts. I just want to read a little bit of this here. And shout out to Common Dreams for this one. It says here that they rammed through their budget blueprint late Tuesday after U.S. President Donald Trump intervened to pressure wavering members to vote for the resolution, which jumpstarts the process of enacting sweeping cuts to Medicaid and other programs to finance trillions of dollars in proposed tax cuts, primarily for the rich. And this is the part that I wanted you to see. One Republican, Thomas Massie, joined every House Democrat in voting against that resolution, which sets the stage for the $880 billion in Medicaid cuts and $230 billion in cuts to SNAP. So, what does this tell you? Right? The one representative that is constantly talking about the budget and how much debt this country is in. Although if I ever spoke to Thomas Massie, I would ask him to look into MMT, modern monetary theory. But that one person who's always complaining about the budget and the debt did not vote for this. Didn't vote for it. I'm pretty sure that in Thomas Massie's district, there are people on Medicaid. I'm pretty sure in his district, there are people on SNAP. My question is, What about all those other representatives? As they are pretending that they don't have those people in their districts. Check this out. From the Hill, shout out to Power to the People. He said, I'll get shit for this, but solidarity to every Trump voter who opposes the Medicaid cuts. This is the correct position. Check this out. 71% of Trump voters oppose Medicaid cuts. 71%. This is the wrong way. Okay? If we were playing Monopoly right now, you do not get to collect $200 and you do not get to pass go. This is the wrong direction. And it's insane because that impacts a lot of people. I sincerely hope with everything that's happening, people will take a step back and they will see, you know what? Neither one of these parties really care about us. Benefits wouldn't try. Democrats wouldn't try to, make this type of cut to Medicaid, but they have made cuts to Medicaid before. There were Medicaid cuts under Barack Obama's presidency, and there were Medicaid cuts under Joe Biden's presidency. Joe Biden also cut SNAP. I know because I covered it on the show. But a lot of people were silent about that when it happened. But their cuts weren't enormous as this one, right? But both parties have made cuts, but you can say the Democrats at least wanted to keep a lot of this in place if they could. But we should have never gotten to this point in the first damn place. That's the point I'm trying to make. But this is definitely the wrong direction to go in, regardless of what your political ideology is. Now, I'm going to say this again, and I know some people disagree. None of this would be an issue if we had universal health care in this country. Because if we had universal health care, you wouldn't have to worry about them making cuts to Medicaid. You wouldn't need you wouldn't even need it. And so many other countries in the world have universal health care. You wouldn't even need it. That's what I want you to take home. Now, again, why are they doing it? They're doing it because, again, if you're getting donations from Blue Cross Blue Shield and Aetna, of course you're going to vote for this legislation because that's what the donors want you to do. You're supposed to go against them. You're not supposed. So think about that. Who are their donors? You see how it works. Thomas Massie was the only one who had a backbone to say no. It could be you. You may never know. I know a lot of people, they sit back and they say, well, these people need to get up off their ass and they need to do this and need to do that. Again, like I told you, that's not the majority. And they never stop and think if one day it could be them. They never stop and think that one day they could be the ones that have to have Medicaid. You don't know what's going to happen. Tomorrow's not promised to any of us, boo. You don't know. Your job's not promised to you. You don't know what's going to happen. Something to think about. But this is not the right direction to go in. Crazy stuff, you guys. Crazy. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you, since 1981. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Whoever looks at America will see the ship is powered by stupidity, corruption, or prejudice. Johan Most. Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. White people use food stamps and government aid at a higher rate than Black people. This projection is tired as he is. There you go. Thank you, Focus. Massey came through in the clutch and voted against Medicare cuts, the only Republican for the working class. Some people think that Thomas Massey should actually run for Mitch McConnell's seat, but I think they already handpicked somebody for that one. Thank you, Rich. Sabby, MMT shows that our federal taxes don't fund or pay anything. They are removed from on circulation. Need Steve Grumbine on to explain. I've had Steve on the show a couple of times. Skylar, some states will let you use EBT to buy a cold sub, but not a hot sub sandwich. The nitpicking is so dumb. Thank you, Yo Nina. Sabby, his accent, he's not even from here. Not a day in the hood, but he has the right to tell us how to live. He can go back to New Zealand or Aussie. Thank you, Sparky. Younger people don't know how to cook anymore, so would starve if food stamps went back to staples only. Yeah, you know what? Why don't people know how to cook anymore? There's a lot of recipes on TikTok. Thank you, B. All I can think about are the elderly with dementia who will lose their housing in a nursing home. It's their housing and home. Diabolical to cut. Yep. Yeah, I worked in a skilled nursing facility, and you'd be surprised how many people like just do not care about their loved one. Don't come see them. Once they go into that nursing home, it's like they don't even exist. Only time they show up is when there's a check. So you'd be surprised. Okay, if you haven't had a chance to do so, smash that like button, guys. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And I have a quick announcement before we go on to the next stories. I don't know if everybody knows. So good news for RBN fam. Our comrade, Rome, is home. Rome is free. He wanted to shout out everybody to show you this. We are very happy for him. Very happy. I was so excited. So he is out. I don't want to get into all of the details because he wants to tell his own story. So I will, we'll happily let him do that. But the good news is that he's out and he's happy. So yeah, he talked to us. He's happy to be back. And yeah. Yay! I know, guys. I know. Corey or Eric, whichever one of you in the background, we can go to part 2. We'll go on to the next story. Thank you. Okay. All righty. Yes, I just spoke to him. Thank you, Jeanette. Any news on JB? Yes, I talked to him before I went live. He's hoping to be discharged tomorrow. So cross fingers. Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Okay. This is an interesting story. Again, the theme is fool me once. So it appears that Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson wrote a book about Joe Biden and his cognitive decline. I kid you not. At first I'm like, is this a troll? Like, what is this? Check this out. Alex Thompson, news. Jake Tapper and I wrote a book and I'm damn proud of it. It's about Biden's decline. It's cover up and how it allowed Trump to return. Pre-orders are really important these days. So I'd be grateful if you ordered early, like right now. I'm not kidding you guys. I thought this was a joke at first. I really did. But here it is. Here's the book. It's called Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. So the funny part about all this is, like, fool me once, right? Because when Biden was president, Jake Tapper defended Biden's cognitive decline. I'll show you that in just a second. And they were all in on it. Corporate media was all in it. They were all in on it, covering up for Joe Biden. They knew he was declining. You guys knew it. We sat back here. We turned on the tube. We can look and see that Joe Biden was not the Biden that we knew when he was running in 2020. Damn near in 2012 or 2008 with the Obama days. We knew that Joe Biden was having some type of cognitive decline. It was very clear. So if we knew, they knew, but they were paid to lie to you and tell you that that was not the case. So they have this book coming out. Now they're going to make money off of this. This is crazy. Crazy stuff. New book on Biden by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. I kid you not, man. People always find a way to make money off of this stuff. Get out of here. The day after Donald Trump won the 2024 election, Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson decided to co-author a book about what had led the Democratic Party to defeat You gotta get out of here, man. Brian said dude was shaking hands with air. I was like, they were already ready, you guys. They were literally waiting in the wings like, okay, let's see if he wins or not. Oh, damn, Trump won. All right, you want to get started on that book? Yeah, I mean, give me a call. Give me a call. Call me. We got it. So that's what they did. So it just the resulting book titled Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up and Its Disastrous Choice to Run Again is coming out May 20th. And I know I'm laughing, and I know some of you are laughing too, but I bet you some of you are going to buy that book. Oh my God. The book publisher is Penguin Press. What you will learn makes President Biden's decision to run for re-election seem shockingly narcissistic, self-delusional, and reckless, a desperate bet that went bust, and part of a larger act of extended public deception that has few precedents, Penguin said in the press release. So you guys know what this is really about, right? They got the green light that it's okay to bash Biden now. It's okay to go after him. It also helps Kamala Harris. See, I'm thinking about this in another way, right? You with me? This helps make Kamala Harris look better because this book, if they can prove that Biden actively sabotaged Kamala Harris's chances, that actually makes her look better. I'm telling you, they're going to blame it. It's all on Joe. It's all on Joe. Biden, his family, and his senior aides were so convinced that only he could beat Trump again. They lied to themselves, allies, and the public about his condition and limitations. Toni Morrison once said, if there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Jake Tapper said in a statement, that's what inspired this book. We wanted to know more about what we all just lived through. More than 200 interviews later, Alex and I have a much better idea, and soon you all will too. Jesus Christ. Moat says, oh, good grief. What I tell you, it's always just one book away, right? Just one book away. And it goes on to say Tapper had a unique vantage point as the co-moderator of the June 2024 CNN debate, right? That led to Biden's dropout. And that kind of proves my point again, that was just all a setup, right? They wanted to, let's have a debate earlier than usual to test his cognitive skills to see if this will be the way to push him out. So because what I was understanding is that none of them really wanted him to run. And I felt like that early CNN debate was a way to get him out, right? I said that back then. I really did believe that. Now, check this out. This is why it's funny, because Jake, okay, this is from Savannah Hernandez. Now, again, she's a part of, I think, Turning Point. So just keep that in mind when you see this. This is coming from Turning Point. So obviously, if it was about Donald Trump having cognitive decline, you would not see her do this video. So just keep that in mind. But the point here that's made is that he was lying. Last year, I did ask Jake Tapper why he and CNN were lying to the American public about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. So this part is true. So you do need to see this.
I'm here with CNN. I can't get very close to them because their security guard is blocking me. But we've got Jake Tapper here. We've got Chris Wallace. We also have Dana Bash. Now, I've been asking them why they have been lying to the American public about the mental decline of Joe Biden. None of you guys would like to respond to that at all? No? Dana, you're a very respected journalist. Jake, not so much respected, but people listen to you still. Would any of you guys like to respond to Joe Biden's cognitive decline and why you guys lied to the American people about it for so long? Can you please take your hands off of me? So there you guys go. That's the media. They refuse to answer the questions of the American people. I'm here.
Okay, so that was just another example where they were trying to ask them, again, like I said, that's Turning Point. So if it was the other way around and it was about Donald Trump they wouldn't be doing that. So just keep that in mind. But Jake Tapper was obviously, they were all covering up for Joe Biden. Let's just be real. Like, since people have been fired from corporate media in the past couple of years, people have been a little bit more vocal about some of the things that have happened behind the scene, what they could talk about, what they couldn't talk about, what they were told, what narrative they were told to go with, right? Like, people have been more open and more vocal about that. So we do have some insight to this. So in the beginning, when they were trying to cover for Biden, I was like, okay, fool me once, right? Because regardless of what Jake Tapper said, I know what my own eyes saw. And I think a lot of you did too, right? So this is why, like, they are there to convince you, right? Corporate media is there to convince you of a certain narrative. And a lot of times it's a lot of propaganda. But you also have your own eyes. You have your own eyes. And my own eyes also remembered this. Check this out, this compilation here of Jake Tapper just denying it. Watch.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
It's very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no. I can't. That's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
and try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
President Biden embraces his stutter, talking about it, while Trump mocks it, exaggerates it, belittles it. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally. Yeah. I think the question is physically, right?
Right.
More so?
Right.
Right. And the guy who's his chief opponent is only 3 or 4 years younger than him.
Exactly.
I mean, you have questioned President Biden's age, mental fitness, ability to lead. Of those supporting Biden, you said, quote, shame on all of you pretending everything is okay. You're leading us and him into a disaster. Do you worry that you damaged him at all? I don't doubt that you got hugs and handshakes behind closed doors today, and maybe even publicly, some of them because they like you personally. But I've heard a lot of really nasty stuff about you from your Democratic colleagues. Sure. I mean, just like, what is he thinking?
He even went as far as to attack Dean Phillips because Dean Phillips told the truth. He said, I think Biden is too old, he was like, he ain't got it. It's not there. He's moving. So instead of Dean Phillips, who was sitting here discussing what he was able to see with his own eyes, instead of acknowledging that, Jake Tapper then turns the attack onto Dean Phillips. All the many ways that Jake Tapper also ran cover for Biden's cognitive decline.
Exercise in narcissism. I mean, false claims to the Wall Street Journal about President Biden's mental fitness and acuity. He's 81. And his memory, it doesn't seem great. It's not horrible, but I don't understand the outrage. Quote, behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping, unquote. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp, which is run by the Murdochs. Beyond the headline, there is some critical nuance here. The article is mostly based on observations of Republicans, with former Speaker Kevin McCarthy the only one going on the record. They do note in the article that most of the criticism comes from Republicans. Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower?
No.
The Russians are trying to make us and the public not trust our election integrity. Joe Biden has dementia, all this stuff.
So the point is, ladies and gentlemen, he was a part of the cover up. So I sincerely hope in that book, he is also writing about himself. He participated in that. They all did. They all did. In fact, you're going to see this here. Did I have Linda? Yeah. So Lindy Lee, she's been on this podcast tour. I guess she's been ousted by the Democratic Party because she opened her mouth and said some things. You guys know how that goes, right? And now she's going on to different podcasts complaining about the Democratic Party, what was happening behind the scenes. Listen to what she said about how they covered it up. By the way, for people wondering, I am not a fan of Lindy, by the way. She heavily smeared those of us that supported Bernie Sanders. Heavily. And she admits to it. She doesn't deny this. So just keep that in mind. Listen to who you're dealing with, but listen to this.
Another reason why I had to leave was the deception on many different issues. Mm-hmm. I saw that they were lying about Biden's age. And when I did in 2022, that's when they first started really lying about it. like gun-ho, aggressively lying about it. I leaked to the press that they were. And I did everything I could. But, you would be ostracized. You would be destroyed if you dared to say that Biden had cognitive decline. They just would not allow you to say it. You couldn't even question it internally. But that's all donors were talking about. All of us knew what was going on. It was like an emperor has no clothes situation. Mm-hmm. And then we all had to pretend that Biden was some like God, this demigod who was so magnanimous and couldn't do wrong. And then he leaves and on the last day pardons his entire family. It's just so destructive to all of our institutions and undermines any arguments about Trump being corrupt when you can just point to Biden, doing the same thing essentially. Yeah. So I'm just sick and tired of the blatant hypocrisy, the excommunication tactics, the fact that you can't ask any questions. I tried to reform the party from within, but they wouldn't have it. They banned me. The first moment, like within a week of me asking questions, I was taken off all the lists.
It's interesting that she mentions that she tried to reform the party because that's what Bernie was trying to do, and she heavily attacked that. So I don't know. I don't know if I believe everything that Lindy Lou says. I think she's seeking a lot of attention right now. But that part that was leaked to the press that, Biden is not with it. He is experiencing decline and they're telling us to lie for him. That I do believe, because that came from multiple sources, obviously not just to her and other people who came forward about that as well. But the reality is, folks, again, like Jake Tapper, you should be writing about yourself. The Biden cover up. Dude, you spread that information. You spread it, definitely. So it's funny, man. People just waiting to make another buck. Okay. Let's go ahead to some of the comments here. Thank you, Sparky. 29 years ago, employment was way up in the United States. So the food stamp program actually advertised to encourage people to sign up because few people were on food stamps. With jobs, people aren't freeloaders. And thank you, Tim. Their book should be titled Genocide and Media Cover-Up. There you go. And thank you for the sticker Christian affirmation. Thank you. Carrie says, from what I can see, this American government system thinks that American citizens are very stupid. That's one way of putting it. And thank you, Kenman. Lindy Lee is cute. Okay. All righty. Well. We are moving on to another interesting story here. So, if you have not seen that Trump AI video, now again, I don't know if Trump made this video. I don't think he did, but he did repost it on Truth Social. It's been shared on X. I actually went over to Truth Social to make sure he actually did repost that. And he did repost it. Some people are saying, oh, he's trying to be funny or whatever. It's not funny, though. It really isn't funny. So let's share this. And then I'll bring up the whole where Russell Brand comes into this conversation, right? So this individual here, Rachel, right? She said, make everyone who refused to vote for Genocide Joe watch this, right? So first of all, let me say something to Rachel. First of all, I've said before already on Twitter, this video is disgusting. That video with Trump and what you're about to see, it's disgusting. But what's also disgusting is for Rachel to try to guilt trip people who didn't want to vote for people who were committing a genocide. That's also disgusting, right? Pointing fingers at people, and I have to say this, people need to listen. Pointing fingers at people who chose not to do this, by the way, remember the Democratic Party still can't win Michigan without the Muslim vote. People aren't thinking about these things when they post these little snarky comments. How are they going to win without Michigan? How? But here's the video. This video is not cool. I'll have to mute it because of the music, but you can watch for yourself because I don't know if and this is AI generated, as you guys can tell. This is supposed to be Gaza. That's supposed to be an AI version of Elon Musk. So you see this, like all resorts along the coast. This is just pathetic. A gold statue of Donald Trump and him and Netanyahu chilling by the beach. So the video is disgusting. And yes, he did repost it on Truth Social. I saw that for myself. Some people are like, oh, he's just being funny. I'm like, that's not funny. It's not funny. Remember, all the people who are still buried there, that's not funny to dance on like mass graves of people. And I think Nico did a really good job here. Listen to this.
Pardon my French, but what the fuck was that? And why in God's name would Trump think that it's cool to retweet that? I've seen some people saying that, oh, he's just trolling, it's a joke. In what world is genocide a joke? Oh, do y'all think that joking about building resorts on top of the graves of dead Palestinian babies is funny? Because I'm curious to know, if Hamas in Palestine massacred the population of Tel Aviv and a president decided to do a video like this or retweet a video like this, would Zionists still think it's funny? That shit is despicable, it's disgusting, and whoever thinks it's funny, you're just as despicable and disgusting. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have died for y'all to make AI videos making fun of their land being stolen by a president who doesn't even have any rights to that land. If seeing that video and the way some people have responded to it does not shake you to your core, infuriate you, and galvanize you in your support for the pro-Palestine movement, I don't know what will. But more than that, you should probably reevaluate your moral compass, because if you think that that video is funny or appropriate, you're probably a fucking psychopath.
Shout out to Nico, always killing it over at Hotspot. We love the Hotspot videos. Him and Nick do a great job with those. Absolutely. Like that is just disgusting. It's not a joke. It's not funny. Literally people's graves have been there. Now there's another part of this that's a little bit weird. Little bit weird, folks. Because that video that I showed you, Russell Brand retweeted it. And I had to respond because I was like, what the fuck happened to you? Right? Russell Brand retweeted. And, you know, I got to show you this. Russell Brand deleted this post. I asked him who was blackmailing him because he was applauding Trump's AI Gaza video. So he deleted it, but screenshots are a hell of a thing. So the screenshot here, you'll see Russell Brand said, in a way, this is yet another example of Trump's unique brilliance. I will add, however, that the AI seemed to be a bit kinder to Elon than it was to Trump. That's from Russell Brand. So my comment was, who's blackmailing you? Now, I didn't notice this at the time. A kid from Heartlands Media, he messaged me and said, Russell Brand deleted the tweet. And I was like, oh, that's okay. We got screenshots. At the time, I didn't notice it until after. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. There was a ratio here. So if we come out, and I didn't realize that at first, but you'll see he had 611 likes and I had 618 likes. But he had 651 comments. So that's a ratio, right? Like you got way more comments than you got likes and this type of thing. And I just asked a simple question. Who's blackmailing you? Because the reality is Russell Brand has been on some, he been kind of crazy lately. Russell Brand that flipped all the way over the what happened to Russell Brand? This is a guy who started a show, and I used to like his YouTube show because he said like, yo, I'm about truth. We're trying to get to the truth and uncover the truth. And I was like, yeah, I like that. That's cool. Then all of a sudden, it seemed like when the accusations came out against him about, being involved with a minor or whatever, like in the UK, and he came out and did this apology tour and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden there seemed to be this shift, right? So like Russell Brand was bringing on all different types of voices on his show. Like he was bringing on conservatives, like, lefties, like Cornel West has been on the show, like number of people, like all different types. Then all of a sudden it was like, after those accusations came out, he just started to, it was like all of a sudden he only wanted to talk to those like on the right? And he was getting closer and closer to like the Trump position and all that. Next thing I know, he says that he is a born again Christian. No shade to people who become a born again Christian. But to me, the way that this all like these events unfolded, it just seemed too a little carefully calculated, in my opinion. So the next thing you know, he became like a born again Christian. And then all of a sudden, just like this crazy ass Zionist. And he deleted the tweet. Why? So I said, who's blackmailing you? Because I feel like you being blackmailed. Russell Brand was all about this, we got to talk about the bad things about the wars and all this kind of stuff and uncover the truth. No matter how uncomfortable it may have been, he was willing to have those conversations. But the moment those accusations came out against him, all of a sudden it was just like, let me just retreat and try to, it was a little bit weird to me. Then he started aligning himself with this guy, like all of a sudden, here he is hanging out with Rabbi Shmuley.
Come on, Rabbi Shmuley. What the hell? Russell Brand has made me laugh. He's giving me joy. But I love that he's Bobby's buddy. I love Bobby Kennedy. We all love Bobby. God bless you. Praise the Lord. God bless you, Russell.
Now, we have seen pictures of Russell Brand at these Diddy parties too. So I don't know if it's the Diddy thing. I don't know what is going on here. But it's very clear to me that this dude just flipped overnight. If people are paying attention after October 7th, that mofo was quiet. He was talking about everything else except the biggest news story that was happening at that time, which was Israel and Gaza. And it's like, seriously? It was so obvious, guys. It was so obvious. So all of a sudden, I was serious. Who's blackmailing you? Think about this. He can't say he don't know. He can't say he don't know. Guys, Cornel West announced his presidency on Russell Brand's show. He can't say he don't know about Israel or Gaza. People, he knows. He done had Aaron Mate on that show. Brianna Joy Gray has been on the show. Get out of here. So I wasn't born yesterday. So it seems like to me somebody blackmailing Russell Brand, but whatever it is, the reality is that video was not cool. And the other question is, you guys need to ask, why did he delete the tweet? Told you guys about the celebrities. Told you about the celebrities. Crazy man, crazy man. Scorpio King said Epstein list. I don't know, but I hope I'm not the only one that has noticed that this dude like totally changed. All of a sudden we want to talk about the truth and all aspects of the truth, but not that truth. Oh, buddy. Let's get to some of the comments over here. Thank you, Cyril Mark, for the super sticker. And thank you, Tim. The song is catchy. Macklemore's remix is bass, though. Yeah, I like that. I like the remix he did there. I wish I could play it on here. Matt says, great job, Sabby. Thank you. Yonina says, Sabby, Russell's best friend is Yuval Noah Harari. Interesting. Man, I'm telling you, thank you, Trust and Success. Hey, Sabby, there were 4 women who came out saying Russell sexually assaulted them. These cases are still plaguing him, FYI. Yeah, I think somebody, thanks, focus. Small hats, big problems. Debbie says he got diddied. It makes you wonder, huh? Makes you wonder. What's this, William? Russell was very limited hangout / controlled opposition from the moment he started that podcast. Interesting. Okay. Guys, we have one more story that is going to make you laugh. There's some funny moments. There's some raw moments, but it's got to be done. It's got to be done. If you haven't done so, smash the like. Thank you. And we're going to get into some goody goodness. Again, the theme is fool me once. One of the things that I was fooled by earlier on was media and how things really work. And I know we have covered on the show about, Joy Reid's firing, etc. And people were asking me like, well, why aren't you more sympathetic? I think tonight you're going to see why. Vicky Dillard did an amazing breakdown here of some of the things that were happening behind the scenes, the things that you guys don't see. A lot of the things that happen off camera, not on camera. And I said to myself, thank you for saying this. And I shared this on Twitter and told people, guys, if there's one video that you need to see is this one. Because what Vicky Dillard does in this video is she exposes what Joy Reid and other corporate media commentators were doing behind the scenes. Let's start with this clip. Get ready.
I'm probably wondering why. Well, Joy Reid served as a voluntary and a deliberate voice against the Black grassroots. I constantly went after Joy and talked about her and many other in media because they use their very large platforms that's quickly dying now. They use the access that they had to government and to the minds of the masses using legacy media and cable media to silence us, to mock us, to censor us. So why was Vicky Dillard constantly going after Joy Reid? Because whenever there was something that went down, like that medical situation that hit the world and we were on lockdowns, when it came to censoring social media, guess who was the voice? One of the first few voices that told the Biden administration, impose the mandates, do this, do that. It was Joy Reid, the Don Lemons of the world, and others similarly situated. I was constantly going after Joy Reid, and I'm going to always be a responsible media person. How does Vicky keep getting it right? I'm a spiritual woman first and foremost. And then later on, I end up getting a confirmation of something, receipts for something. Well, Joy was a big defender of Hillary Clinton. And do I believe that she was working behind the scenes to get her talking points from her team? Heck yes. Similarly with Roland Martin. How many of you all know that I was constantly nonstop for the past few years breaking down the fact that Roland Martin's name came up in the WikiLeaks release? Most people did not expect a rejected black bootleg like him to come up in such important documents. But those emails showed that Roland was connected to leaking information to Hillary Clinton's campaign related to a debate question that she was not supposed to have. So he was working hand in hand based on information, credible information. There was evidence of that with her, with the DNC, with the Democratic Party, with the Hillary Clinton campaign. I'm bringing that up because I'm trying to get you all to understand that the people that's supposed to be representing your issues behind the scenes are secretly making sure they get good biscuits.
What did I tell you guys? I told you they were actively silencing Black grassroots voices. They were actively silencing people. Those of us that are independent media, we were being silenced by other Black commentators that were corporate media. They were looking out for their career, their money, their pocket, all that kind of stuff. And they saw people like Vicky and African Diaspora Network, they have over 1 million subscribers, as a threat. Because they were giving you a side of the story that Joy was not giving you on MSNBC. Not to mention, they have their own app. African Diaspora Network is not just on YouTube. Phil Scott and them, like, they built something really, they built something. Like, it's not like no little measly, no. They saw them as a threat. Let's continue.
They're only concerned about themselves individually in their little small groups, and they will throw you to the wolves. And they front in your face, and they cuss you out, and they mock you, and they work to censor us. So no, I ain't crying for Joy today because she worked to silence us.
Yeah, and I kind of felt the same way. I mean, that's why I was just kind of like, do you guys know what they were doing behind the scenes? And I will go to another part of that discussion right about here. Did you guys know, and I think I brought this up before, I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but Joy Reid was the one who silenced Breonna Joy Gray. See, these are the kind of things. You guys understand, people have been blacklisted. Breonna Joy Gray was supposed to go into MSNBC. Do you know the booker who booked Breonna Joy Gray for the segment? Do you know that it was Joy Reid who fired him? Come with it. Did you guys know that? Don't ever bring her on here. Blacklist. We literally had other Black people in corporate media blocking us, silencing us, censoring us. This is what I was trying to tell you guys. Let me let her go on more. Don't cry for Joy.
Again, I'm a woman. And I'm a woman and I get emotional too. It's not about the fact that you cry. It's what you are crying about. Where is my gavel? Talk black to me, somebody. It's Joy Reid. And I also called her Joyless Reid. Did Joyless Reid cry because the Democrat Party refused to give us reparations? Did Joyless Reid cry when the Democrats set up out of Chicago, for example? There are many other places of sabotage by the Democrat Party, their most loyal base after 60 years of voting for them. When the Biden administration was in office and Joy Reid still had her show, did Joy Reid cry about the fact that they pushed for a crime bill and successfully got one for the AAPI community and then redirected money, $50 million just to their community? Money that was already in the government, and the Democrats did that? And they rejected of doing the same thing for us. Did she cry over that?
Mm-mm.
Did Joy cry when they tried to institute stuff online to silence our voices? Did Joy Reid cry when some of us, like myself, was targeted by a so-called fact-checking group? And they put my name in there to misrepresent me and didn't reach out to me to come after me? Did Joy Reid cry over that? Did Joy Reid cry over the fact that her network, how many of y'all saw my broadcast that I did here a couple of years ago on how Tiffany Cross says tried to come for me slick wise? How many of y'all saw that? Google it. Y'all see it right here in the search engine. Right here on this network. How many of y'all saw I did a broadcast where Jamil Hill called herself trying to come for me? She worked for ESPN before they let her go unceremoniously.
Yep.
How many of you all saw the back-to-back broadcast that we did on Angela Rye when she was dogging us, dogging people that we love and appreciate, and she crying a river because CNN and stuff, and nobody cares for them, and nobody is coming for them anymore. All of her hopes and dreams of going back on mainstream media and getting into the White House as an aide to Capitol Hill, her dreams were dashed. And she cried and cried and cried and cried some more, and said that she didn't get and her colleague told me he didn't get out the bed for days. And she said she was getting up in the middle of the night screaming randomly, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. No, I'm not exaggerating. How many of y'all saw the broadcast we did here, family?
And to this point from Charles, she definitely didn't cry when she took over. I think it mean Melissa Harris Perry show after she refused to let the establishment use her. Nope, she sure didn't, Charles. This is karma. This is why I told you guys. This is why people are like, don't you feel sympathy or sad? Hells no. No, 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 no. Wait, we ain't done yet. Wait till you hear more. You'll understand why.
Why am I bringing that up? The whole time they had those positions, they mocked us. They worked to silence us. They pushed for policies that they know because we use alternative media. They were pushing for policies that would censor us so that we would not continue to be a competitor to their voices. How many of you all know?
I told you guys that they were working toward. That's why. Remember all those hoops? You guys know. Hold on a second. You guys know how we have to jump over hoops and stuff to talk about certain things on here and all that kind of stuff. Like, who do you think people were behind all that? Like, they defended, because again, like I said, they were competition. And not necessarily me, but African Diaspora Network has over 1 million subscribers. Yes, they are competition to someone like a Joy Reid or to someone like a Tiffany Cross. They were competition. So this is what they were doing. I'm telling you guys.
The statistics and the statisticians and the demographers show that more and more folks are trusting us, listening to us, and that the cable news networks and legacy media is losing authority and power. Yes?
Told you.
How many of you all know Joy was about that life? Now, she's sitting up here talking about the fact in that clip where I went hard for Black Lives Matter. She said that she discussed and she does not apologize. What else did she say? For standing up for the LGBTQ community. She said she does not apologize for standing up on behalf of immigrants who just come here to this country for X, Y, and Z. Family, with her arrogant self, they still chose to silence the very large Black grassroots voice and those that represent them like us, like voices like mine that have been doing this for years, and that did it in my own unusual way when the rest of the world mocked me. Joy's buddies, her network, which I brought up a minute ago, MSNBC. How many of you all know that before they fired Tiffany Cross a couple of years ago, that network, MSNBC, specifically her show, Tiffany, she specifically called out one of our Black grassroots voices and told their audience not to listen to us. I gotta emphasize that because I'm trying to get y'all to understand. Joy is crying because she wants us to feel bad because she feels like her voice, her show has been stopped. Meanwhile, she was willfully, knowingly, and intentionally working to sabotage, silence, prevent, frustrate, fall, and stop and demolish our voices, which were your voices.
So that's a big part I think people need to fully understand. Again, like I said, they've actively been blacklisting people. And I'm talking about people that are good, because what I got to get to is this, and I'll bring up this other part here. What I have to get to is this. When you hear them say that we need more Black media, we want more Black voices, they're not talking about any Black person. They're not even talking about the best Black commentator. They're talking about a Black voice that is pro-Democrat. You cannot be too hard on the Democratic Party. That's what they're talking about. Hell, they would be more willing to take someone who has less talent and less experience than before they take someone who has the talent and has the experience that is too hard on the Democratic Party. When you hear people like Joy Reid and all of them, Joy and Roland and all of them, we need more Black media. We need more Black media. They're not talking about people like Brianna Joy Gray. They're not talking about people like me. They're not talking about people like Jamal Thomas. They're not talking about us. They're talking about Black people that fit a certain mold, and that mold is pro-Democratic Party. And you may be able to push back on the Democratic Party, but you are never, ever, 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 ever going to tell people, no, I don't think you guys should support them. Because it's basically an arm of the Democratic Party. Just like you can say Fox News is an arm of the Republican Party. So they're not talking about us. That's what people have to understand. We'll get to this part here as well.
They officially helped Biden get into office. Remember, they started ignoring Reverend Al Sharpton. Remember, they started ignoring the Urban League. Do y'all remember that? They started ignoring all the Black bootleg type and so-called civil rights groups. What happened? How many of y'all remember Reverend Al Sharpton and them exposed them on their platforms? And that forced Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to answer their calls. Because remember, they came out and said, they're not even answering our calls no more. So what did he do? What did Kamala Harris do? They were forced to meet with them by Zoom. And in that Zoom meeting, Joe Biden admitted something. And the media tried to spin it. They tried to say, well, he didn't mean it like that, or it was out of context. No, baby. Did Joy Reid cry? And did Joy Reid do any broadcast on the fact that Joe Biden said that America is doomed, not only because of Black folks?
Yep.
And then he said that because white folks in America are getting ready to be the minority here come 2040, that they're also doomed?
Do you guys remember it was not too long after Biden won and there was that call? This is what she's talking about, that call with those civil rights leaders. And he said, nothing's going to happen for you. Now's not the time. Notice how Black media either didn't talk about that, was hesitant somewhat, or they defended it.
Did Joy cry when he said that? Did she cry when he said, and y'all gonna have to work with the Hispanics? As soon as he said that, mainstream media went out to try to put out little stuff online to say, well, it's out of context. He was making a larger point. No. Did Joy cover that? Did Joy do back-to-back broadcasts and cry when Joe Biden said that we ain't Black?
No.
If we don't vote for him? And then she sit up here talking about she spoke up for Gaza. I'm not going to get off into all that, but tell the truth. She wasn't even talking about them folks in Gaza until the last minute. It got so outrageous, she was forced to say one or two things. And even then, she didn't even say nothing strong enough because she was getting so much backlash for not saying nothing at all. Now she's trying to fix her legacy. So now that she out, it'll look like she was about that life.
I told you guys, that was all that time that went by, and then she finally said something, and even the criticism that Joy had at that point was mild, right? So it was mild criticism that Joy had at that time. Meanwhile, all of us in independent media, all of us actually, were talking about that. We're going to get to this part here. I think this is where we get into the Sean Hannity part. This is juicy, guys. Listen to this.
Why is this important? It's important why I called her out and others like her, and why I was effective in staying on her. It's because these are your modern false prophets. Did you hear what I said? These are your modern false prophets. Family, do you understand that whoever has access to the minds of the masses controls the world? I'm going to say it again whoever has access to the minds of the masses literally control the world. How many of you all know there's a such thing as a war of words? There's a reason we call it a war of words. Because before the war, the victory is won out in the battle physically. There first has to be a narrative, a consciousness to mess with the eco-space of society. You got to see the message out there in the consciousness and the minds of the people. How many of you all know that the reason why they work so hard to dog black folks is that way when the police took us out, deleted us on camera, nobody would rise up to do nothing. All they would say is, well, they some thugs anyway.
That part right there. And then we have one more part I want to get to here. This is the part about how Sean Hannity and all of them behind the scenes, how they actually working together. So listen to this part. I'm trying to tell you guys, peep this.
This headline, family, is from 2021. This headline says, Hannity tells Santorum he helped prevent Joy Reid from being fired. I know y'all said, Vicky, I know you ain't talking about Fox News Hannity. I know you're not talking about Rick Santorum, the political guy and the guy that's on CNN and stuff. Yes. Why in the world would Fox News come out and do something of the sort? Listen to this headline. I don't have time to show it to you, but just so you know, I'm not lying to you, because I know everybody, on this network, they do everything professional, baby, and everything. So I don't have the article to put up. I want you all to look it up when you get a chance. This particular article I'm reading from is from The Hill. Headline, Hannity tells Santorum he helped prevent Joy Reid from being fired. This is from 2021. I've been talking about this for years. I use this article as just one example of the fact that I knew they was going to get rid of her to supplement what I was always saying, and I was prophesying to her early on that they was going to let her go. She was just a tool for them to use. What does it say? Fox News host Sean Hannity during a Monday interview with Rick Santorum, who was just fired by CNN, said an NBC executive thanked him for defending MSNBC's Joy Reid and helping her keep her job. Quote, when Joy Reid was in trouble, I was called by an NBC executive who said your public comments played a big role in us being able to keep her, meaning her job, Hannity said. She wrote me a nice note. This is one of many things I was discussing. Why did I bring this up? Even though I was telling y'all a long time ago they was going to eventually get rid of her. And why was I using all this evidence over the years to prove my point? I used Sean Hannity and Fox News to let you all know it's a game.
It's a game. It's a game.
Reid was fronting. They love the Republicans. They love Fox because they bounce off of each other. Do you all know that that's how ratings work? Do you all know that Fox News' rating is higher because they're more effective in placating the needs of their very biased and anti-black audience? But they got to have a black face in order to be effective and keep attacking them. So one of the reasons why Sean Hannity of Fox News was fighting to keep Joy, because he needed a face to keep punching at for his audience. When you look at the multi-trillion-dollar war bill that your government can't account for the last several audits, both sides are for it.
Both sides are for it. I think we have to drop the beat. It is a game. Dance with me. Dance with me. To the top. Shoot the top. What I've been telling you guys. So think about this for a second, right? These people are enemies in front of the camera. Behind the scenes, it's a totally different thing. So you have to have someone to bounce off of, right? So she gives the example with Joy Reid and Sean Hannity, and she sends them a nice note and all that kind of stuff. She is right. It's like they need to have one to bounce off the other. I saw this during the 90s with the talk shows. Remember the 90s, all the talk shows? You had Oprah, Ricky Lake, Phil Donahue, until, they got rid of Phil. And Geraldo, all those different talk shows that were around during the 90s. Don't forget, there was also beef between those talk show hosts. See, people forget about these things. So it was like you had to have that person to bounce off of. It's designed to be a certain way. Fox News would have difficulty without MSNBC and CNN. CNN would have difficulty, CNN and MSNBC would have difficulty without Fox News. She's right. It is a game. These people been playing games. And Joy Reid, the moment she got to that, she never really took no step forward to stand up for said people. If anything, I showed you the clip. I showed you the screenshot when she was smearing the ADOS organization, calling them Russian. I told you this is what they do. They'll either smear you as right wing. They'll call you Russian bots, disinformation, anyone that is black and is not necessarily pro-Democrat. Anyone that's a voice of the black grassroots, this is what they do. And they've done this to Breonna Joy Gray. And that was even when she was Bernie Sanders' press secretary who was running through the Democratic Party. They were smearing her then. So think about that. They've done it to her. They've done it to me. They've done it to anybody. I'm trying to tell you, if you are not in that, it's a cult. This is what I mean when I say it's a cult. You have to be willing to play a certain game. And if you're not willing to play that game, they will not only pretend like you don't exist, they will try to do everything that they can to silence you or to smear you or to tell people don't pay attention to them. But see, this wasn't supposed to happen because the thing is this. Independent media was never supposed to become this big. Independent media was never supposed to become this big. And it has. Look around. Look how many independent media channels are now over 1 million subscribers. That was never supposed to happen. They were never supposed to really compete with CNN and all of them. They weren't thinking about these little small YouTube channels. But look at now, where you have more people willing to watch independent media. And then they're like, I don't know if CNN and Fox News tell me the truth. Let me go see what some of the YouTube hosts have to say. There's a reason why a show like Redacted had over 12,000 people watching it live yesterday afternoon alone, because they were willing to tell you things. They warned you that this Epstein file release wasn't going to be what you thought it was going to be. And you may not agree with these shows on everything. Fine. It is what it is. But they were working to silence, in particular, they were working to silence black grassroots. And it was our own damn people doing it. So you remember what Dr. West say, black faces in high places. Everybody not cool with what you're doing. And you'll find that if you're listening to me and you've been thinking about starting a YouTube show and you want to be outside, I'm going to let you know, everybody's not going to be cool with what you're doing. And you need to ask yourself why. And you'll see it even in independent media, even in left, so-called progressive independent media on YouTube. There are some who have worked to do the same thing that Joy Reid did, actively smear or silence black grassroots voices. There's a reason why you don't see too many black people on those channels. And there are a number of us around. Jamal Thomas, who's been on here. Excellent, phenomenal, smart. Jamal Thomas, Tim Black, right? So just some of the voices. Jason, who just started, he was just on here recently for a panel. Amazing, excellent voice. There are a number of black podcasters who have come onto this show, but you don't see them on a lot of other people's shows. That's on purpose. It's not because they're not willing to go. It's because even in independent media, you have the gatekeeping. And they don't want their audience to hear what you have to say because they are more worried about audience capture. I don't want my viewers to go over to that channel. I want to keep them all to myself. So if you're not in that Democrat bubble, they are not trying to entertain you. Everyone has to pay attention to stuff like this. So when you hear people say, we don't have that many, there's no black voices in independent, that's a damn lie. There are black voices in independent media on YouTube, and you've seen me bring them on this show. You just don't see them on other shows, on the bigger shows, because they don't want their audience to hear it. So you have gatekeeping on both sides.
Both sides are against you getting reparations, black family. They want you to pretend like there's a major difference between the two parties. They'll disagree on one thing or another, so that when in fact it's really controlled opposition. They give you the appearance. I grew up in Mississippi, and on the weekends, my grandparents and some of my family used to watch, what is it called? WWF? WWF. Now, when I was real young, like 5, 6, 7, that I didn't know that at that age that it was really fake. Talk black to me, somebody. My granddaddy would be sitting there, talk black to me, somebody. My mama would watch, my grandmama. Y'all ain't hearing me today. The whole family was sitting there watching WW. I didn't know till about some years later. Oh, this ain't real.
Nope. It's a game. And I'm going to leave it there. You guys can watch the full video on African Diaspora News channel. But no, it's a game. Just like it's not real with corporate media, a lot of times it's not real with independent media either. But the censorship and the silencing that I was telling you about, that's been going on for a long time. Long time. And the sad part about it is, yes, Joy Reid, she wasn't the only one, but she was one of the ones that was doing that. So you see, there's this thing called karma. And sometimes what you do to other people, it come back on you. And that's what happened to Joy. She wasn't thinking about that, to that poster's point. She wasn't thinking about that when Melissa Harris, was pushed out of that spot, and so Joy could walk into it. Because Melissa Harris said, no, you're not gonna censor me. So what's done in the dark will come to light. Let's get the comment on Rumble. Eric, thank you. Thank you, Laugh 66. Who is this lady with the great hair and nails? Also, is Sabby's top not inspiring tonight? Oh, thank you. I like the shirt. So that's Vicky Dillard. And I spelled Vicky's name wrong in the thumbnail. I'll have to fix that. But that's Vicky Dillard. She's from African Diaspora Network. Let's go to some of the other comments here. Lauren says, that's an effing shame. Black faces in high places. Damn. That's what there you go. That's what Dr. Russ was talking about. What's up, Cheetah, who's been a member for 3 months? Don't cry for joy, America. Nope. Thank you, Trust and Success. Wow. Joy, silence, Bree. I'm not shocked, but it's still sickening. Crab in the bucket mentality. Shame. This is why, like, when Mark Lamont Hill was talking about it the other day and said, oh, she's an honest person and about Joy and stuff like that, I was like, nah. Thank you, Eric. Thoughts on a Black liberation discussion panel consisting of Black people from conservatives to liberals to Marxists to anarchist Sabby? I think I did something sort of like that. But I'd be down for that. I don't know if I called it that, but I'd be down for that, of course. Thanks, Juanita. Sabby, love me some Vicky Dillard. She's base. Talk Black to me, somebody. I like the gavel. Thank you, Mike. Joy crying over her show cancellation worse than when Mr. separated Sealy from Nettie. Joy, you can join your homegirl rolling in the broom closet. Damn. Thank you, Dre. Vicky is a wild card based on her past, but she's on point with this one. Reid is something else. Sabby and Brianna are the absolute best at it, though. Oh, thank you, Dre. That is really nice. Thank you, New York Varsity. When the 3 shills they are replacing her with is an actual improvement, What does that say about Joyless Reid? Everybody calling her Joyless now. Menendez should give her a gold bar on the way out. Damn. Thank you, GDNPB. Joy said her show had value, just not to whose value. Yeah. Thank you, Hero Force. Love Vicky. Don't always agree 100%, but she stands on business and spits facts. Shout out to ADOS FBA, Deep South, West Coast, New England. Thank you, Hero Force. And thank you, R. Martian. It's wrestling. Republicans and Democrats play fight in the ring. SCOTUS pretends to referee. MSM hypes. Some in the audience are plants. They are all paid by the same oligarchs. Rest of audience is drunk on propaganda. That's a good point. And thanks, H. Dennis. Sabby, Vicky, Dillard, and Boyce Watkins both regularly disparage LGBTQ, are not pro-Palestine, and are pro-Trumpers with a question mark. I've never seen them be pro-Trump. I think that's one of the smears. I've never seen them be not pro-Palestine. If anything, she was talking about Gaza long before Joy did. They've been talking about Gaza over there. I don't know about Boyce Watkins. I only talked to him once on a panel on RBN, but I don't know. These things did not come up with Boyce. And disparage LGBTQ. I have not seen those things. So again, those sound like the smears that I was talking about. Like I said, if you're not pro-Democrat, they will smear you. Thank you, Eric. Recommend reading Black Faces in High Places by Lorenzo Kumbo Irvin and Jonina Abron Irvin, and it can be found online in the Anarchist Library. I'm Judah. Sabby, do you have a Cash App? I can't get through PayPal. I do. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what the deal is with PayPal sometimes either. I do have a Cash App, but it should be in the details description. I thought it was there. Thank you, Dre Hard. I always want to say doctor. You see it orchestrated in sports TV too. Skip versus Shannon. Ocho versus Marcellus. Max versus Stephen A. Controlled chaos for sake of ratings, not truth. Yeah, there you go. Shout out to Lauren L, who just gifted 10 Sabby memberships. Give Lauren a big whoop whoop. All right. And congrats to everyone who got those. And thank you, Jacoby. Here on YouTube, the hard work that you do, Sabby, you should have over 500,000 subscribers. So they intentionally suppress the views and the subscribers on Black media. They told Tariq he's not getting his plaque. They told him he's not getting his plaque? I have mine over there. I just need to hang it up. That's weird. I wonder why they're not giving that to him. That is very strange. I had to fill out a form. There's a form you have to fill out. I don't know what his subscriber count is either, but they changed the rules on it. Like you have to have at least 100,000 subscribers to get the plaque. And then not only that, they still go through the channel to see if it's what they consider to be okay for advertisers. And then they send it. How many subscribers does he have? I wonder. I'll have to check. That is very, very big. Very weird. I'll have to look at that. It's interesting. I wonder if he completed the form. Because I know like it used to be you didn't have to fill out a form for it, but nowadays you have to fill out a form. What is it? Oh. So he's over the threshold then. Yeah, he's over the threshold. So he should be able to do it. There's a form you have to fill out though. So I don't know if he completed the form. He's been 260K for like over 5 years. Huh. I wonder when he applied for it. That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know him. So I can't reach out to him and ask him. New York said, I thought 100K get you. Yeah, but it's the way it works now is like when you get to 100K, right? There's a notification that will appear like on your channel on the YouTube studio side. So like, and it'll tell you that you're eligible. But when you click on that link where it says you're eligible, you have to read through all that. And it says you fill out this form to get the plaque. And then they have you, I'm trying to remember, there was this thing that you had to write what you want on it, like exactly how you want it. Like if you want your name or your channel name, like that kind of thing, you have to do all that on the form. And I did all that. I don't understand why they're not letting him get that. It's weird. I wonder if he tried to do the verification, because to get the check mark, to get the verification, you also have to complete a form for that too. And they wouldn't even let you do that without the 100,000 subscribers either. But even with that, like they go through the channel to make sure it's what they consider to be advertiser friendly before they'll even give you that check mark. So I wonder if I don't know if he tried to do that first and then maybe tried to get the plaque. Because they shouldn't reject giving you the plaque. He gets ads on videos all the time. Okay, then yeah, they shouldn't reject giving you the plaque though. That's the weird part. But I know they can be picky with the verification. So, oh well, interesting times. That's interesting. I don't know. Well, next time you guys like call into one of his stuff or tell him there's a form that you have to fill out. I don't know why they would have blocked that, but then again, I don't know. Like YouTube's weird sometimes. I don't know. Ichi, Tariq has featured your content before. He does an X space every night. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Well, interesting. I hate Twitter Spaces, by the way, if people don't know that. I really hate Twitter Spaces. I find them to be very combative. Cloudness said he's done all that and they just started letting monetize chats recently. That is interesting. I don't know what's going on there. Very weird. All right. Well, that is it for Me Too tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay. That is interesting. That is it for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I am not streaming Friday night. I'm trying to get over this cold before my birthday weekend. So I won't be live Friday night, but I should be live on Sunday at 5 p.m. But tomorrow and Saturday, I'm going to give my voice a little bit of a rest here. But other than that, guys, and the mutual aid workshops, I told you guys that I wanted to start those. That is going to be, let me pull up my calendar and I'll send out my newsletter about it too. The first one, because I'm going to try to do one every month. The first one will be March 14th at noon. I'm going to try to do it at noon because that's like lunchtime for people. It shouldn't last longer than an hour. That's going to be the first one. And I will also send that notification in my newsletter. I'll send that announcement out ahead of time there too. So you'll know and you'll have the link for the Zoom. And it should be about an hour. Again, the goal is to try to do it every month. If you can't make that one, that's fine. Like I'm going to continue doing those, just the same thing over and over here. So yeah, March 14th, because I totally forgot. I'm not even going to be here the following weekend. So anyhow, that is it for me, guys. And I hope you have a good evening. Have a good weekend since I won't see you guys Friday night. And other than that, have a good night. Keep up the fight.